See if my shares work tonight.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
This show is brought to you by BetUS.com. 125% off your first 3 deposits, 30 years experience, secure site, wagering for all sports, including during the games and futures. SeatGeek provides you the best prices on sports and music events, game tickets, and concerts. Use NSS promo code to get $20 off your first ticket. Keep using the NSS promo code when purchasing tickets for great deals in the future. In Fanatics at nessp.info for your favorite teams, sportswear. Click on the link, and while you're there, check out our national streaming sports merchandise. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday Professional Sports Show. Of course, we're here every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Bo Crouch, James J. Train, and also we got Keith Angle, one of the best sports guys around. So, guys, we got a lot of sports to talk about before the show. I don't know where to lead it off with. I guess we'll start with the Thanksgiving games, right? And get our picks and all information that we can give out to the folks out there to make their picks if they want to pick along with us. BetUS.com. Just scan that code right at the QR code at the top of the right screen, right corner, and scan it, and you'll be able to get right there and make some bets. So anyway, guys, Detroit and Chicago. Detroit, of course, probably the best team in football at this point in time, right? I mean, we don't know at the end of the season if they are going to be or not, but right now they probably are. Going against the Bears, defense that is pretty good. Their offense, which is having problems. Dunze's not catching the ball as much. Caleb Williams is having a little problem getting the ball out of there to their wide receivers and running backs. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Do you think the Detroit Lions make a statement on Thanksgiving and say, yeah, we are the number one team in the NFC at this point?
I'll say yes. If somebody needs to start. Detroit's had a lot of Thanksgivings where they were not able to make a statement. That's been a bad football team more often than not over the decades, and they've had this slot for 4 decades. And I think this is a great spot for them to get in front of a national TV audience, which they've done a couple of times, but not where they're this, this is a traditional game that I think they get a chance to beat up on a traditional rival as well, who is kind of going the opposite direction. A month ago, 5 weeks ago, I thought this was going to be a good game. The Bears were sitting at 4-2, and the Lions were starting to get rolling, but now it looks like a mismatch on the field, and I think Detroit will make a statement here.
Yeah, it's a huge game for Detroit also because it can end a 10 Thanksgiving losing streak. A streak I would imagine they want to see end. So, yeah, I think they beat up on a Bears team that really just isn't very good.
Look, I'm going to have to disagree with both you guys.
Good.
I'm going to have to disagree with both you guys because I just think that if you look at the games that the last 2 games Chicago has played without Shane Waldron and is it Thomas Brown, I think? He's the new offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
They've looked under control offensively, and they've given both those in-division rivals all they can handle. They just lost an overtime game to Minnesota 30-27, and it was a very close one against Green Bay 20-19. That said, the Lions are 9-2 at meeting the spread. So they're I think projected -2. -11.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure they're probably going to win this game, but they might not hit that spread on this one. I think Chicago's going to give them all they can. But they're probably going to lose, just not going to hit the spread.
Well, there's people competing for their jobs in Chicago, so they've got that going for them, I guess, or against them. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent around the Chicago team, and I think they should be better than what they are. I don't disagree with that part of it either. And maybe they'll turn the corner. Even with that change, though, James, they've still lost their last 5 games in a row. So
true.
Yeah, well, that's because the brainchild is still at the helm, right? Eberflus still exists in this building. So I'm going to go with things aren't really going to change a lot until he's gone. But I am with you. I don't know that they cover. That's a huge line for a divisional right.
Right.
That is for
sure. Then you got Miami against Green Bay. Miami's won like 5 in a row. Green Bay seems to – I don't know what it is with Jordan Love. We're expecting him to kick it in again like he did last year. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he has one of those bad – I know it's his 4th year in the league, but I think it's really his 2nd year playing full time. Maybe he has that sophomore slump. Then maybe the Green Bay Packers aren't going to be as good at the end of the year as they were last year. I don't think Miami's a powerhouse by any means either. I think that they can put up points, but their defense has a lot to prove to me. So that they got to be able to come up and stop a good offense in its tracks to have any kind of shot at making a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think they get it done. The Packers probably win at home here. First, it's going to be cold, right? It's going to be a 20-degree game, and Tua's 0-4 in sub 40-degree weather. So I'm not putting a lot of stock in them being able to do much. Obviously, that defense has been a problem for a number of years. This one seems like the Packers can get it done at home. It's not going to be a blowout or anything like that. Probably be the best game of the weekend, really, of Turkey Day, because there's one in the middle that I feel like if you were going to take a nap, that might be the one. But I think the Packers get it done at home here.
There you go, beating up on my Giants again, Bo. I swear to God.
I didn't even bring them up. I just said there was a game.
So, James, for the Giants to beat the Cowboys, besides the Cowboys just not showing up, what would they have to do to beat them?
Claim Daniel Jones off waivers, off the practice squad, and bring him back. Giants have a really decent defense. They haven't look. They lost 30-7 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I don't know. They would have to get Saquon Barkley back, get on their knees, and ask him to come back, and then ask Daniel Jones to come back and all play together, and we can rewind this and thing. And I just don't see it happening. I think the Cowboys, they're at home, right? It's in Dallas.
Yeah, it is.
That's going to be tough. That's tough sledding. I just don't see it happening. I think, and I hate to beat up on the Giants, man. They're trust me. What are they, like 2 games below the Saints? Saints probably about to lose at home against the Rams. It's just, yeah. I hate to say it, but I think the Cowboys win this one.
Keith, the Cowboys have their problems too. I mean, their defense sure isn't closing down doors. They got one really good wide receiver. There's a backup quarterback, Cooper Rush, playing. Their running back is decent. Giants running back is decent. I mean, to me, this could be a lot closer than people think.
It's a battle of attrition more than anything else, because you're right. Both these teams are not in good position to, they'll draw a big audience, because people are going to be, what time is this game? This is at 4:30. People are probably getting done with their dinner and their bellies are full. They're looking for something to fall asleep to. This will be the perfect thing to do. It's Cowboys.
Wow.
Time game.
John Mara, right? Is the owner of the
Yeah.
Giants. You think he's seen that clip enough from Hard Knocks about him saying, "I'm going to be sick if Saquon goes to the Eagles." That is the theme of the Giants season. They chose the quarterback over the running back, and they lost.
And they got neither one of them. They're both
Yes.
They got one, and they set themselves back another 5 years.
Yeah, I do think you're kind of right, though. I think this will be a closer game than it probably should be, because the Cowboys are bad too, right? Like I said before the show, though, it would have been hilarious if the Cowboys went and got Daniel Jones, started him against the Giants and won, because they probably will. But yeah, that defense for the Giants is actually pretty good. And mostly it's that pass rush that is excellent. I think they still lead the league in sacks. So, I mean, they have the elements.
Yeah.
Before you move on, I do want to get a chance to say something about that Dolphin-Packer game, Mac, if it's okay. Yeah, I'd like that. I'd like all quarterbacks to have a sophomore slump like Jordan Love. He's had a couple bad games. He got 11 interceptions. Half of them are in 2 games. The team's 8-3. And they're in position to make the playoffs and maybe do some more, make some more noise like they did last year, and maybe knock that door down. Who knows? I think Detroit will have to answer to Green Bay before this is all over.
It's a good point. Definitely a good point. We have
Can I say something about that too as well? About that?
One more quick thing. And when does McDaniel's name start coming up as in trouble and being in trouble? Because this is a very soft football team as far as I'm concerned. I think that's a reflection of the coach and the way he carries himself. So just my own point of view.
Do you think it's that, or do you think it's the fact that they've spent all their money on offense?
Well, that's part of it too. Yeah, it's philosophy, right? So yeah. I don't
know. I mean, their defense against the run, they're ranked 8th, so they're in top 10 against the run. And I'm thinking that's going to be an interesting matchup against Josh Jacobs. And one interesting fact as well is that Tua, since week 8, since he's come back, I mean, he's completed 73% of his passes, 1,277 yards, 11 TDs, and 1 interception, including 4 touchdowns in the last game they played. So, and their back's against the wall right now. So, I don't know. These guys might be a little hungry. And I know this might be the time to say, oh, I go into the cold. We play better. We win. Our back's against the wall. Maybe they go into Green Bay and snatch a win. I don't know.
I mean, they can. Their offense is dynamic enough to score points, right? And their defense has gotten better as the year's gone on. Right? I'll give you that. Like they're middle of the road now instead of being last. So, I mean, that's a noticeable jump. But at the same time, it's middle of the road.
2 of those 3 wins are against the against the Patriots and against who's the other team they play? The Raiders. So let's not get too excited about what the Raiders, Dolphins have done here.
No, exactly.
Well, James likes to get excited about his football teams and his favorites, like Cal Williams. So, I can see why he does stuff like that. So we do have Denver at Cincinnati, also one of the games. Cincinnati's favored by 3.5. Denver at 7-5. Cincy at 4-7. Denver is going to make the playoffs. I don't see them not making the playoffs this year. I don't think they do much. In fact, I think Kansas City, San Diego, and Denver all get in. Cincinnati's a crazy case here. I mean, they got one of the best quarterbacks in the league, 2 of the better receivers when they're healthy, a good running back. What's going on with Cincinnati, James?
They just don't have anything on defense besides Trey Henderson. There's not much going on at all. So you can score a lot of points, but you're running a track meet to go up against the opposition. If you can't beat them in a track meet, then you lose because your team is just not stopping the other offense at all. It's just really unfortunate because, I mean, like you said, Joe Burrow he's running a terror this year. I mean, if it wasn't for their defense, he'd look like he'd be in running for MVP or Offensive Player of the Year as well.
No question.
Could be. Could be. Thanks, Carlos, for joining us today. Glad you
Yeah, I mean,
joined
he's
us.
putting up 30 points. Like, how much more do you want him to do? Like,
Yeah.
he needs
Right.
to stop
Right.
anything.
They play just poor enough to lose. And I think Zach Taylor's job is another job that could come into jeopardy here if this team doesn't get things going here in the stretch and at least make a run at the playoffs. His job could be in danger. I had this epiphany the other day. We keep talking about Belichick, and Belichick will be in the league next year, by the way. This is a sleeper place for Belichick to be considered, I think, is Cincinnati if Zach Taylor ends up out of a job. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't see Zach. Not that I know him personally, but I can't see Belichick going to Cincinnati. I think he'd go somewhere that, like the Giants, or maybe
He's not going to the Giants. No
Cowboys.
quarterback. He's not going anywhere without a quarterback and a chance to win now because he's
Yeah, he's not
70
trying to rebuild.
years old. So.
Yeah, he's
And
not
then
trying
he can rebuild that defense, obviously.
Yeah, it's a good point.
He's
too.
Yeah,
no-
no, but I mean, like a quarterback, like full rebuild kind of thing. He's not doing that.
No way. No way.
Speaking of coaches coming back, Rex Ryan has campaigned like a Southern diplomat down there, trying to get back in the NFL with the New York Jets. His former GM Mike Tannenbaum, another GM Rick Spielman. They were going to make it a search for a new head coach and general manager. Of course, Tannenbaum hired Rex Ryan from the Ravens, and he had a sweet deal there with Brett Favre, where Brett Favre really didn't have to go to practice. He could go fishing, he could do what he wants. It sounds like Aaron Rodgers, don't it? I mean, Aaron Rodgers basically can do what he wants to. So I mean, it's a weird thing going on over there, Keith.
You know what? I think I've said this last week on the Big Football Show. I'm not sure. There are three. I said there was two, actually. There's three people that won't coach the Jets next year. Me, Bill Belichick, and Rex Ryan. Those three guys are not coaching the Jets next year. There's zero chance in my mind any of those things going to happen. Rex can campaign all he wants, but Rex is a bigger showman than he had a good job. Did a good job coaching the Jets for a while, and so he became like a caricature of himself. And that hasn't changed in his years in TV. He didn't do a good job in Buffalo. And I don't see how he gets a second chance with Woody Johnson in New York. So I don't see that happen.
See, I hope it does, because for shows like ours,
Great fodder.
like the dynamic between his crazy and Rogers' crazy is must-see TV. Like you'd watch that game even if they're terrible, because the fireworks on the sideline will be hilarious.
How's he going to fit a Rogers tattoo next to the Sanchez tattoo? Where's that go? How's that even work? I don't get it. How's that going to work?
You position him so that Sanchez is running into the back of Rogers.
It's a family show, Bo. Let's not go down that road.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, we could discuss some discussions before the show that we're not going to repeat here right now. James, Rogers says he wants to come back and play for the Jets again.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying that now. But after a few dark moments and trips to Egypt, who knows what he wants to do come next year. I don't. And even if he says that, if I'm the owner, would I want him back? Just everything is on the field. With the antics off the field and the lack of production on the field, it doesn't equate to bringing you back, paying you X amount of dollars. And because the team was there, he had weapons. They got him the weapon he wanted. Nothing is coming into fruition that equates to W's, and which is what really matters. And I'm like, I don't know what his contract is like for next season. Are they scheduled to make him a free agent, or I don't know the money situation.
I think he still has another year left. I think.
Yeah, it's an option.
And even that's fair.
Yeah,
the way owners now, look at the Denver situation with Russell Wilson. You can let him go. You can just take the cut and be like, we'll just do something else. Get a whole new coach, like Pat LaBelle says, a new attitude, just everything. Just make sure get something different.
I thought it was here, maybe not, but I thought we came up with a number that it would cost the Jets like $26 million to part ways with him. It's money. I just eat the money. It's time to move on. You don't run this back again. after these last 2 seasons. You can't run this back again. How can you? I don't know how you can.
No, that's what they tell you in all sports betting. Hit that QR code at the top there. Is always chase your bets.
Right.
If you fail, just double down.
Yeah.
Right.
There's also a 1-800 number you should probably call.
Nobody wear that 1-800 number on his forehead from here on out. I think.
I think that's a different one.
Speaking of quarterbacks, we see what's going on in Pittsburgh right now. Russell Wilson still, to me, playing pretty well. You got Fields, who can still be a good athlete. But next year, I mean, if this doesn't work the way Pittsburgh fans and the brass is hoping it works, and they don't make a run at the championship, do they go ahead and get a quarterback or sign a different quarterback? Do they get Aaron Rodgers? Do they do something down the road?
Yeah, I can't see Aaron Rodgers and their head coach coexisting, actually. But as you said, to your point, this is probably a 1-year experiment. If they don't win, I wouldn't think this is it for the long term. Yeah, but it's not as easy. That's one thing we talk about. Yeah, I say jettison Rodgers, jettison Wilson, jettison that guy. There's only so many quarterbacks around, and there aren't that many coming out in the draft. So teams are going to have to maybe make decisions that they may not want to make as far as hanging on to quarterbacks an extra year than they may not want to. So that's why Daniel Jones may very well find himself in an organization with a chance to play next year.
Well, if you're the Steelers, you do have a unique situation where you could run this back with Wilson, and it still isn't going to cost you anything because this was the first year of that Denver contract. So you can continue hosing Denver because they got to pick up whatever is left, right? You're just offsetting a portion. So, I mean, potentially you bring him back for $1 million yet again. So, I mean, they can run that part back. Fields will end up somewhere. I was surprised they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. That seemed a little strange to me. I guess they're betting on him being bad and signing him for less somewhere. But yeah, I mean, they're in a unique situation. They can run what they're doing back if they want to.
I can see why they didn't sign his 5th year. It's $25 million. That's a lot of money for somebody to sit the bench. But I agree with you in regards to Russell Wilson. I mean, if they just get to the wild card and maybe get to a divisional round, I mean that's a win for $1 million. They have already got their investment with giving them just $1 million. Like you said, they ain't have to pay anything. They're holding the Broncos right now, and the Broncos. I mean, I guess it worked out for both teams because you look at Bo Nix right now. He's doing what Sean Payton wants, and he's playing lights out the latter part of the season. So I think Russell Wilson probably has enough in the tank to be able to quarterback or man this team another year under a contract.
Much better than I expected him to do. So kudos to him.
On that note, is Jaden Daniels still your front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year? Or has Bo Nix moved into that spot? Because I think it's Bo Nix.
I think Bo Nix is. I mean, if you've seen, like, both teams are trending in a different direction, so that matters. And so I would say Bo Nix. It was Jaden Daniels for sure, but unless he does anything these last 6 games or so, it'd be Bo Nix, and Bo Nix would have to flop heavily in order for him to take that. He lose that position.
I would agree, but I think it could go the other way again. I think it depends on which team, as you said, James, is trending better towards the end of the season. We have a recency bias in everything we think about in sports, right? There's always that recency bias. So, but Bo Nix just close that gap if he hasn't passed him for sure.
Does Washington still have a chance at getting in that wild card with all the teams in NFC that are playing well now? I mean, you got Dallas who's playing better. And of course, you got the West, a few good teams out there. The North, which is really good this year, and the South has a couple teams. Does Washington get to the playoffs this year?
Well, if we started now, they're in the playoffs, correct? If I'm not mistaken. So, but there are a lot of teams chasing them down, as you said, and getting better. The difference between the AFC and the NFC to me is remarkable this year. There's a lot of really good teams in the NFC, and maybe twice as many good teams as are in the AFC. And some good teams going to get left out, I think, for sure. And I think Washington makes it.
Okay. All right.
And gets it 28-3 in the Super Bowl and loses the game.
Wow. astronomical. So,
Well, it's only because having Dan Quinn before. That's
all right.
No, I'm with it.
McCarthy getting an extension, guys. It looks like that Jerry Jones is going to stick with him like he did the Clapper there for 10, 12 years. Jason Garrett, come on, guys, let's go. He was great at that. He was a great cheerleader on the sideline.
He still does it. He's on TV doing this.
he is doing
Maybe
that.
really. Maybe he just does that. I mean, maybe that's like a nervous habit or something.
Well, let's go.
Yeah, I know. He's the
I'm gonna
kid,
start
get in
doing
the car. Yeah, let's get in the car. Let's get in the trip. Let's go. Anyway, I mean, he's done it before. Jerry Jones has done it before, and he may do it again. He's the type of coach that Jerry Jones likes, right? He doesn't want people in there telling him how to run the Cowboys, how to make them successful. That's what he knows how to do, as he thinks. So, what's your thoughts on that, James? With McCarthy being a Dallas Cowboy coach for the next 10 years?
I mean, this particular season is an anomaly if we have to compare. I mean, if you look at his career there in totality, he's been a success there. So, I mean, they had issues in the playoffs, and I think that's what matters. But I mean, 12-5 for the past 3 seasons is pretty significant. That's not hard to get. I mean, that's not easy to get. So I can see having continuity in that respect. But they got to do something. I mean, if anything, maybe Jerry Jones is maybe looking self-reflective because ultimately you got to give this man things to work with. And they didn't do anything in the offseason. So that's really the GM's issue. And that's on Jerry Jones. So you can't blame Mike McCarthy for that.
He's won 36 games of 3 seasons before this. I mean,
Right.
bad football coach, you know. And again, it's to me, the common denominator there continues to be Jerry Jones, and he's the guy who needs to go, and he's the guy who's not going anywhere, obviously. So,
And he's also probably looking at what's out there and what's going to be out there in comparison to what he has.
he's not getting. If he wants Bill Belichick, he's not getting Bill Belichick, for instance. So you might as well keep Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at. It's either one of two ways. He's either looking at he probably can't get the guy he wants, or this is lip service because if he just came out and said today we're not bringing you back, you might as well fire him today because he no longer has any pull in the locker room. Moving forward, right? So it's either lip service or he's realizing he may not get the guy he wanted. And in either case, that doesn't make you feel good about the guy that's going to be there because it's either the runner-up where you're like, yeah, I mean, I guess you'll do, or, you know, he doesn't have a plan. So I don't think he wants McCarthy there, but it might be one of those, well, I know what you are. Or it's just, I'm not firing you today.
To Mac's point, it's the Clapper scenario all over again, basically.
Yeah. The Harbaugh brothers.
Just good enough to not win.
The Harbaugh brothers. Which one is more crazier? I think it's Jim. I think Jim is crazier than
Without a doubt.
And you know, it's like being born again. Jim says when the practice season opens, and I mean he's a definitely fun guy to have around. Both of these teams are going to get better. Both of these teams are in the AFC East. Can you see maybe Jim getting to that Super Bowl or to the championship and beating his brother to get to the Super Bowl?
This year? I mean, it's entirely possible. I mean, again, they've matched up before. They matched up in the Super Bowl, so matching up in an AFC Championship game would probably be a bit of a downstep for the two of them. But they're two of the best coaches in the game. Jim Harbaugh, very polarizing because of who he is and how he kind of brings himself across. But he can coach football. He's won every single place that he's gone, every place. And there's no reason to think I didn't think this team would be this good now.
Yeah.
So he's done a really, really good job. And he's got an elite quarterback. So he's going to continue, as you said, Mac, to get this team better. And John Harbaugh's just one of the most consistent coaches since he's been. I mean, quietly, he I don't know. Is he the longest tenured coach in the AFC? Maybe I might be. I think he might be.
Not next to Andy Reid, probably.
I meant with one team. I don't think.
With one team, yes, that makes sense.
I think
With one team, yeah.
yeah, it's either going to be him or Tomlin, right?
Right. Tomlin would be the Mike.
Yeah, Tomlin might have him. That's a good point. But still, he's one of the most consistent coaches in since he's been in the league, and underrated in my mind. And Patriots had a lot of great battles with those Raven teams over the years, and John had a lot of things to say about the Patriots over the years. I don't hold any of it against him. He's a great coach, and I think it'd be fun to see that matchup again.
I would too. Good evening. The sharp-dressed man, Robert Butler, is with us tonight. Glad you dropped in, Robert. Yeah, get a chance. Sports Scope every 8 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday on the Roku channel. One of the better shows on the channel. So we pretty much got through everything I wanted to talk about on the NFL. We made our picks and everything. One thing I wanted to talk to finish off with was actually the Baltimore Ravens, not just the coach, but their quarterback, who's pretty efficient this year, one of his best years ever as starting quarterback. Doesn't have to run as much because he's got a big running back there. And, Derrick Henry seems to be a big key to them maybe getting to the promised land this year. The years before, they really haven't had anybody but Lamar Jackson. So what is your opinion on that, Bo? I mean, when they use King Henry, they win. When they don't, they lose. It's pretty simple to me.
You would think so, but they keep doing it is the problem. It's one of the more frustrating things to watch when you're watching the Ravens. If they end up with between 11 and 16 carries, they lose. And then if they get 20 plus, they win with Henry, right? So the only two anomalies to that were the two games against the Bengals. Those were both sub 20 carry games. They won both, one in overtime. But was that because they did anything good? No, it's because this Bengals team finds ways to lose games. So, had they played a team that can finish, they probably lose those two also. So I don't know why they seem to not be watching the same film all the rest of us watch, where when Henry gets 20 carries, they win. But we saw it again last night. What do you bet next week they decide, you get 14 carries and it becomes the game where they might lose. It's the most frustrating thing.
It is. It really is. So let's get to some college football here, and our resident Reverend Keith Engel will be preaching the gospel of college football. And I've got a bone to pick with Keith. I told him before the show. Listen,
I'm not on this committee, but I'll listen to your
Oregon, number one. That makes sense. Ohio State makes sense.
Yes.
Texas kind of makes sense. A little iffy, but makes sense. Then we got my favorite team of all time, the Fighting Irish, Notre Dame, at number 4, who hasn't played anybody. I repeat, anybody this year with a winning record, except maybe that team in the beginning maybe had a winning record.
Texas A&M ranked top 25 all year.
All right, so I'll give you that. And did they lose that game?
No, they won.
You sure? I gotta go back and review that.
They lost one game to Northern Illinois. I'm pretty sure.
Northern Illinois. That's where I was going. Anyway, Keith, it's because of your influence on the rankings committee, and because of your influence on Facebook and all the internet, that they're keeping right now Notre Dame at number 4. And you got to stop it, Keith. You got to stop.
I didn't know it was this powerful. Number 1,
right?
Number 2, look at they did beat Army, who was ranked also in the top 16 probably when they beat them. They're still number 19. They beat a good Navy team, a better Navy team. Do they play an SEC schedule? No, but they're not in the SEC. They also have stuff against them. That doesn't matter. And they're 5th, by the way, not 4th. Penn State, who I would argue has played as bad a schedule as Notre Dame. They haven't beat anybody ranked that I can think of right off the top of my head. They nearly lost to Minnesota last week. And Notre Dame's got strikes against them when they get into this tournament. They can't finish in the top 4. 5th is the best they can be because they don't play in any conference. Their name helps them, obviously, and the brand helps them. But these other teams, they wouldn't be number 5 if Bama didn't keep losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, teams they got no business losing to. If Georgia wasn't losing games, if Indiana was, again, we talk about Notre Dame, and Indiana's everybody's favorite story this year, mine too, but they beat nobody. They beat worse teams than Notre Dame played all year long, even the Big Ten teams. So again, this is how it goes. This committee, I don't know what they look for. I don't know if it's if they put more weight on head-to-head, if they put more weight on strength of schedule, or they put more weight on good wins compared to bad losses. Nobody knows what their criteria really is. And the where the rankings are right now will not be what the rankings are in 2 weeks. They got three ACC teams in there right now. That will not happen. First of all, actually, they can only have two because the other thing, by the way, is the way they rank teams is stupid because they're not seeded.
Yeah.
Right now, you're going to have 12 teams in the playoffs. They got Clemson at 12, but Clemson wouldn't be in the playoff because a Big 12 team would be jumping ahead of them.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous for them to go out and rank these teams the way they rank them. They should just seed them every single week if we're going to do this. Probably ridiculous. It's all for guys, for us, something for us to talk about, right, on these shows, which is great.
That's why they make them ridiculous too, because they're like, oh, this will get a lot of play. Let's put this team at 5 for no reason.
Now I will say this: Notre Dame being number 5 right now does matter, because if they hadn't moved up as far as they moved in a poll and they lost to USC I think they play them this week or next week. They only got one game left. If they were to lose that game and they were 9, well, the committee would have to drop them out of the rankings. They move mid 5, then they can drop them down to 11 or 12, and they're not going to get beat up that bad. So
I don't know, Keith. Your pie status might keep them in the top 10.
So,
well, I'll just keep talking about, because I do have a future wager on them to win the national championship.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but
that's what the voters have too. They got this weird parlay going.
Listen, though, I'll tell you this much: the people who didn't want a 12-team playoff because they said it would devalue the regular season, none of them know what they're talking about, because this season has been unlike any other. It's been chaos week in and week out, and every single game matters. There's 20 games. Did I count 20 here?
Oh, he's throwing papers now.
No, I got a note with down here this week. There's 20 games this week that impact the playoff this weekend. 20 games. We wouldn't be talking about but 3 games this weekend if it wasn't for a 12-team playoff.
So it goes back to the old question: why have a regular season then, Keith?
I just said every game; these games all matter.
I mean, if you're gonna, you're talking playoffs. You're gonna have 12 teams in the playoffs. It's not based off who's number 1, who's number 2, who's number 3. It's based off a brand of 20 teams.
Well, there's also in the 20 teams that we're talking about, and we're down to about 14 or 15 in the mix right now still. Of the teams that are in that mix, we wouldn't be talking about at least 5 of them at all if we're just looking at brand name and what preseason polls showed. We wouldn't be talking about SMU. We wouldn't be talking about Indiana. We wouldn't be talking about Boise State. We wouldn't be talking about South Carolina or Arizona State. All those teams, if we were just, this is why we play the regular season. All of these teams have played their way into this conversation based on their regular season performance. Everyone I just mentioned, plus others. Tulane, Army matters. When is the last time Army mattered? Army mattered.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Very long time.
Yes,
I mean, there's still a scenario where they could get in. It's possible if they win the AAC and Boise really stinks it up, they lose 2 more games or something.
Well, and
Army or Tulane could still sneak in.
And because you have the playoff system that's, currently here, 2 lost teams still matter. Right? Like if you lost 2 games before,
even 3 losses. Oh, I mean, Alabama's still alive at 3. Georgia could have 3 losses and get in if they were to lose. There's one of the really strange quirks. Georgia's probably could be penalized by making the conference championship game. If they go there and lose their last game, they play the extra game other teams didn't have to play maybe, and they fall behind them or all the way out again. I don't think they will, but it's just, there's some really interesting quirks here. Now, I still think they need to make some changes. They may need to reseed after the first round of the playoffs because there's some really weird matchups in the quarterfinals that could cause a team to be better off being ranked like 12th and 5th, and that's just foolish, right? But
it just depends on who's in front of you, right?
yeah, I think all in all, the expansion of the playoff has been really good for the sport. And again, at the risk of getting sued by Basement Bob, because he thinks I stole his playoff idea, which I didn't. I've only espoused something everybody else has been talking about for decades. I'd like to see 16 teams with the 10 conferences all getting their winner in, similar to the basketball.
Sure.
And then you at larges and give all the Cinderellas a chance. Like teams who win Conference USA and all these smaller conferences. It's only 10 conferences. It's not like basketball where there's 34 conferences or whatever, for crying out loud. There's 10. And I think you give everybody a chance, and then you still can get in your next 6 best teams. And I think there'd be no buys. And I think it would be, you'd say some blowouts, but so what? You see blowouts in the 14 playoffs. So people worry about all this stuff that it's just going to happen or not happen.
If you're worried about blowouts, then you can't have been watching the 6-6 bowl games that have happened for the last 20 years either.
And hopefully this will eliminate some of those, because teams, I think what you've seen over the last few years with those bowl games and teams, the players opting not to play unless they're in the playoff matchups, I think you're going to see some of these bowls just try it, because the money's going to dry up for the sponsorships for these bowl games, in my mind, because right now it's just you're scheduling fodder for ESPN. These bowls, there's nobody in the stands at these lesser bowls, and you got to go scrounge. Last year, 5 and 7 teams are getting in because they couldn't find enough 6 and 6 teams.
Exactly, and nobody's going to watch a toaster strudel mascot run around the field.
Exactly.
There we go. Sorry, Pop-Tart.
Whatever you prefer.
Always a Pop-Tart. What the hell's a toaster strudel?
It was the generic version.
I like the strudels better, Bo, to be honest with you. I like the strudels.
Me too. I was a fan of the strudel.
Pop-Tart's where it's at, man. Cold, right out of box.
The strudel, you got to put your own frosting on it.
Right. You could heat it up, too.
Heat it up, yes. Absolutely,
right?
man.
Very exciting.
Man, this show's getting like the Sunday stream of consciousness, for crying out loud.
Yes. Speaking of college basketball, UConn loses its last 2 games, like in the last seconds, goes to overtime. The head coach wasn't too happy with the fouls that were called, especially in the last game. It didn't look like the guy really fouled him. It looked like he went up to get the ball, and really no foul should have been called. But it was. It's the way it goes. He's going for the three-peat. I don't know if there's a lot of pressure on him, Keith, or maybe they're just it's still early. That's for sure.
It's early.
It's going to give him time. They're going to need time to gel anyway. But interesting as it is, what of the Blue Bloods do you think has the best shot besides UConn of maybe winning it this year?
Kansas is really good, but they're talented. They're talented every year, and in recent years they haven't got it done under Bill Self. But they're going to be at the top of that list. I think Kentucky will bounce back with the change in coaching with Calipari and some fresh blood coming in there. His name is escaping me at the moment, but former player for the Kentucky. It'll come to me after the show. But I think they're going to be much improved this year and possibly have a shot. And I think Duke under John Shire with some experience under his belt and another year of good recruiting, I think Duke will bounce back and have a shot. We'll be talking about them in March as well. And Carolina, but for talking about the ACC, I think Carolina will be a strong challenger in March as well.
So switching to pro basketball, we talked a little bit of Knicks playing a little team basketball. There's other teams out there playing really well too right now. And the Phillies, the 76ers are definitely not one of those teams. But your thoughts, Bo, one of your co-hosts, of course, is the Philly sports guy, Pags. I know he's not happy with Embiid and what's going on over there. What do you think? I mean, what do you going to trade Embiid now? Is that the next move?
I mean, based on what's happening, it wouldn't be a bad idea. right? I mean, the team's not playing well, and then you have him making noise on top of it. I mean, at some point, if you're not winning games, star power doesn't matter. So sometimes you got to move off of guys.
You're not going to get anywhere close to market value, fair market value for Embiid at this point, I wouldn't think. Do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
No.
you're basically going to give him away. And
I mean, you'll get something for him, but it's not going to be great for sure.
who's he actually going to help? That I'm sure he's got to approve a trade. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing he needs to approve a trade. Maybe not.
I don't know what his contract looks like. So yeah, I don't know about that. But I mean, the thing is even if you don't get a lot, does it still move you closer to where you want to go than what's becoming a toxic environment?
Yeah,
probably. You know,
I mean,
sometimes
he's coming out saying he wants to. I'm sorry.
No,
He's
you're
coming
good.
out saying he wants to play load manage every other game.
yeah.
I mean, that's man. How do you just admit? I mean, well, obviously, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But what does that say to the other teammates? And then, I mean, they're calling him out for not making practices and late for everything. That's just not good. If you're going to load manage, be early on time for everything.
Yeah,
And you're
exactly.
the front guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's the Kawhi Leonard effect, right? You're just,
Yeah.
do you even like basketball is really what the question becomes. And I mean, if you're only there part of the time, like I can get a guy that maybe isn't your talent level, but he shows up and plays hard every day. I'm gonna trust that guy way more.
The window's closed in this Philly chance with Embiid.
Oh,
The Embiid
yeah.
era, the window's closed. You're right. Time to move on and rebuild.
Cleveland, surprising a lot of people this year. They're in first place. They had a undefeated run for a while there. Is it the coaching, Keith? Is it the new coach there that's making them play better, more defined? Not just kind of doing what they want to do. There's more of a definition to the team.
Coaching changes always make a difference, good or bad, right? And you change the culture, you change the whole approach to practice, to the way you approach games. There's always been quite a bit of talent on this team, I thought. And so I think the coaches do make a difference. 17-1 is a great story, but it's November still. And the only game they lost to the one team they need to beat. And that's not a good sign. Well, one of the two teams they need to beat. And that's not a good sign because I'm trying to remember the score. I don't think they were necessarily in that Boston game, but I could be misremembering that. But they got to win those games. You got to win those games against the Celtics, the Knicks, and I guess even the Bucks are starting to come back a little bit, right? So those are the teams you got to beat in the East. And I'll get excited about Cleveland a little bit more when they start winning playoff series.
Yeah, it was a close game. With the
A close game? Okay.
Yeah, it was a 3-pointer.
Okay. Fair enough.
We can't beat that. And I don't think a lot of Bucks fans are going to agree that the Bucks are making any kind of comeback the way the situation is over there right now with
Won 5 in a row. They're 500 for the first time, so they're making some headway.
I mean, for the talent that they have, one of the best centers in the league, there's no doubt about that. They got they're one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, no doubt about that. So, I mean, maybe so, Keith. Maybe they do something this year. But I know there's always going to be a tear between Doc Rivers and that team there.
Well,
we're not even a quarter of the way in. I feel like we need to calm down about the skies falling.
I agree, but I will agree back to a certain point, a certain extent, I should say. On his point is that while I'm saying this team's getting better, this team needs to win. The window's closing on this team too, and this group of players. The window's just like the Sixers, and when the Greek freak is now talking about getting out of Milwaukee, and I mean, they need to win now and turn this around, and they have started to turn around. So I'm not writing them off this year by any means, but again, it's time to win now, or none of them will be around, including Doc Rivers.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're still not too happy about the guy that they let go to Boston, Drew Holiday. I mean, you let that guy go, and Drew helped them win a championship, and took away a piece that was underrated, I think, for them.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Part
and
of
then
that championship team.
you fire a coach when they're winning. I still don't get that. I don't understand that, to be honest with you.
You're talking about Buttholz or whatever his name
No,
is.
No. The guy that was there last year.
Griffin.
Yeah.
All wanted him until they didn't want him, and they got him fired. So that was a player revolt basically that got him fired, and they wanted him in the first place. You're letting the inmates run the asylum too much when it comes. I'm not sure that they shouldn't have got it rid of Bolt. Again, I can't say the guy's name, Bud Holzer or whatever his name is. He won a championship. Everybody in that team, Drew Holiday. I'm trying to think of some of the other names from that.
Middleton. Yeah.
And they had a guy that came off the bench, did the dirty work. They all knew their jobs and their roles, and those are the teams that win. And when you got guys just going out there trying to pad their stats and get a contract, that gets ugly, like it got in Philadelphia, like it looks like it might be getting in Milwaukee. And you just got to have guys that know their roles and are willing to fill them. Those are the teams that win.
Okay, so I saved this.
That's crazy.
I saved this one. I saved this one for Bo because he's a huge Knicks fan, and I just he's a closet Knicks fan. I mean, he claims other things, but we really know. So Bo, how do you? I mean, I know you watch a little basketball, not a lot. You say it's early. We all know it's early, but we talk about it anyway. I don't care if it's early, late, or whatever. That's what talk shows do. How do you like the way they're playing basketball in New York right now?
I mean, they have a winning record. That's a step forward for the Knicks.
Wow, didn't they win 50-plus games last year? Maybe I dreamed that. I don't know.
They did. I just liked I just like making fun of the Knicks. I was a Sonics fan, right? And they stole my team, so I do have this negative connotation for the NBA.
Well, the Knicks didn't steal your team. Don't blame us. I will say this. I like the fact that you don't let facts get in the way of a good story. So that's
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Thing, so.
No, I mean, they were actually a solid team, and I mean they're playing good basketball. All things being real, they are playing good basketball.
All right. So talk about a former owner in the NBA, Mark Cuban. He sells it to a real estate his friends, I guess, at the time. For a percentage, he sells them out. They buy him out. He can't sit next to the team anymore. He can't sit behind the team anymore. I mean, they're like, just get out of the stadium, man. I mean, they did a Charles Oakley to him. Just get the hell out. We don't want you here anymore. So, I mean, that is just crazy. I mean, this guy is one of the most recently popular basketball owners there is. Shark Tank, the whole 9 yards. I mean, what would you be feeling right now, James? If you're Mark Cuban,
I mean, tell me how you really feel. I mean, once give you the reins to this team, and that's unfortunate because I think he was a fan favorite. I like seeing him on the sidelines, and Dallas made a 180 when he came there. I mean, he brought relevance back to this team. So I think there's a little bit of, I don't know, maybe there's something internally or disrespect. I don't know what happened to where he can't be there. I didn't hear this. That's true. He can't be.
No, you can't sit next to the team anymore. No.
Wow. Maybe it's a conflict of interest. I don't know. But I think it's unfortunate because again, this is somebody that brought relevance to that organization and made them look a lot better. And they won a championship, albeit against a Miami Heat team in 2011 too. Yeah. So yes. I mean, that's unfortunate.
He may be a fan favorite. He's not a referee fan favorite. I know that. They're happy he's not on the court anywhere. So
he said, "Who's not?"
The referees.
Oh,
it
yeah.
seems like he would have had something in the agreement saying, like I would have drafted it that way. I bet I would have been like, "Look, I may be selling this to you, but I got to be here forever."
I don't think he thought that would ever happen. I wouldn't think that. I mean, like, listen, we're buddies. I'm turning this over to you. I mean, it's a successful organization worth so many billions of dollars. Just here you go. Just be right with me. But it didn't happen.
I mean, anytime you sell stuff, you got to be careful, right? Because
Yeah.
you don't own it anymore. So like if you want ties, you have to make sure that part is in place in the purchase, because otherwise, once you're no longer a controlling entity, they can do whatever they want.
And maybe the owner now, the new owner, just from a business perspective, doesn't want any type of I guess I can't even think of the word, influence from Mark Cuban. So you don't want any influence. I mean, whether it be from the media, anything, you don't want him sitting there. I mean, you could buy a ticket and go sit somewhere. So I mean, but the way Mac's saying is like he can't even buy a ticket. He can't do anything. He's not allowed. He's been barred away or banned from the organization. That's just weird to me.
I think he's barred from sitting where he sat as a majority owner of the Dallas Mavericks. And
I don't know, Keith. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up after the show.
I think the NBA has something to do with this, as well as the guys that he sold the team to, or more so, or most.
That could be. In Major League Baseball, Max Snell, Blake Snell, sorry, the brother of Max Snell, played for the Jets. Yeah, he played for the Jets. He's a longtime cousin of Blake. But Blake, anyway, gets a new contract with the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken. And, they're going to be paying him some big bucks for a while here. So Blake Snell, Juan Soto's still out there. The Polar Bear, he's still out there. There's a few players out there that still need to be signed. But Blake Snell is the biggest one so far, Keith.
Buyer beware. Blake Snell, to me, is one of the most overrated pitchers in Major League Baseball. He's hurt. He's had physical issues. He has control issues for a lot of times. I think one of the most telling stories, and maybe it's more an indictment of Major League Baseball and the way we played a game today than it is of Blake Snell. But when he threw his no-hitter this year, it was like the first time in his entire career he got an out after the seventh inning in his entire career. And that, to me, that's an indictment of Major League Baseball, maybe more than Snell. But he's just not a guy I've always hoped the Yankees wouldn't sign him, because I don't think he's got the makeup to pitch in New York myself. So we'll see. He's going to be in another major media market, and the Dodgers just keep finding ways to creatively add to their payroll. What do they pay him? $3 a year, and the rest for 75 years from now, or what?
I mean, in about 6 years, the Dodgers are going to be the worst team on the planet.
Yeah, when they got to start paying all these guys?
Yeah, they'll have a AAA team down there.
Unbelievable. So, folks, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate all the likes, loves, shares, and comments. Always a fun show with these guys. Sonia is on vacation. That's why she's not with us. I don't know what she's on vacation from, but I mean, maybe it's too much hair and nails getting done. I'm not sure what it's all about. I'll figure it out.
Get letters now, Mac. You're getting letters.
I know that's so. Hey, listen.
I'm pretty sure she has finals.
Finals, yes.
We got your back, Sonia.
All right,
Mac, you'll be back in the hospital. We'll know what happened.
So, folks, thanks for joining us for Mac, Bo, Keith, and James. Thanks again for joining us for another great edition of the Professional Sports Show.